I was halfway through explaining what I built because they forced me to when my manager sliced through my sentence with a single word. Thief. The sound of it hit me so sharply I forgot to breathe. One moment I was standing in front of a long table of investors, trying to steady my voice as I walked them through the system I had created with my own hands. The next, Carrick Sloan stepped forward, pointing at me as if he had been waiting for this exact moment. Thief, he repeated, louder this time. Apologize right now and get out. You're fired. A few of the investors leaned toward one another. I heard short whispers, a soft hiss of confusion. They had no idea why an employee was being accused in front of them, and I was no longer even supposed to be an employee. I only stood there because Emergent Corps ordered me to appear and clarify my involvement in the disputed project. No one told them that part. My throat tightened. I tried to say something, anything, but Carrick cut the air again. Say the words. Evelyn, admit what you did. I could not move. Every syllable he threw at me felt like it pinned me in place. All I could do was stare at him, at the absolute certainty on his face, as if he had already rewritten the entire story, and all that was left was my surrender. Then, a calm voice came from behind me. Everyone, please stay calm. Althea Rowan stepped to my side with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen men like Carrick crumble before. She carried a thick stack of documents, held firmly against her chest. When she placed them on the table, the weight of them seemed to change the entire room. If you are accusing my client of theft, she said, turning toward Carrick without blinking, then please, prove it. Carrick's jaw tightened. His eyes darted across the papers as if he already knew what was inside them. Standing next to Althea, I felt something shift not in the room, but inside me. 3 days earlier, they dragged me out of the building and forced me to apologize for something I did not do. And somehow, I was here, defending what I created. Everything started unraveling long before this moment. 3 days earlier, I still thought my job was safe. I was reviewing a line of code when my inbox flashed with a message marked Immediate Compliance Review. Before I could process it, 2 members of HR appeared at my desk. One of them, a woman named Leona from Corporate Relations, folded her hands as if she were delivering bad news to a stranger. Evelyn, we need you in conference room 4, she said. Now. I followed them into the room. No greeting, no explanation. Just a folder already waiting at the center of the table. Another HR representative, a younger man I barely recognized, sat stiffly, eyes down. Leona opened the folder. You are being terminated for unauthorized use of company data. I blinked. What data? The automation prototype, she replied. Your project demonstrates elements derived from Emergent Core infrastructure. That system was built in my apartment, on my own machines, I said. Long before I worked here. Leona didn't flinch. We are not debating timelines. We need your acknowledgement. She pushed a form toward me. Sign the disciplinary termination and we can avoid further escalation. I will not sign something without evidence, I said, keeping my voice level even as my hands tensed. The younger HR rep swallowed hard. He looked at me for the first time. They're terrified about the investor audit, he murmured, almost too quietly to catch. They need everything clean. Leona shot him a warning glance. Escort her out, please. I stepped into the hallway, and the security guard who joined us didn't meet my eyes. As we reached the exit, my phone buzzed with an automated internal alert, one I should not have been receiving anymore. Ownership trail updated. I stopped walking. What does that mean? The guard kept moving. You are no longer cleared to access company information. The door closed behind me. I had no idea what they had already begun rewriting. Being fired was not enough, they needed my silence. The morning after they removed me from the building, I received a message from Carrick Sloan himself. No greeting, no explanation, just a curt line. Return for a clarification meeting. Mandatory. I almost deleted it. Instead, I walked back into Emergent Corps with a temporary visitor badge and a knot in my chest. Carrick waited inside a small glass room, arms crossed, jaw clenched. He didn't sit. "We need your written apology," he said. "The company cannot afford ambiguity right now. For something I did not do, I asked." "You built an overlapping system," he replied. "Your admission will confirm that March flow was a misunderstanding, not misconduct. That system is mine," I said. "It existed years before you hired me." Carrick exhaled sharply, as if inconvenienced by my existence. "Evelyn, I am telling you how this ends. Sign the apology, and we close this quietly." He turned his monitor toward me. My stomach dropped. The internal dashboard no longer displayed March flow. It showed Sloan Sink, marked as proprietary. Under Original Designer, the field listed his name. "You replaced me," I whispered. "I corrected an attribution error," he said. A notification popped up at the corner of his screen, an email recall. For a split second, the preview flashed "Delete Original Trail." He scrambled to close it, but I had already seen it. My phone buzzed. A coworker, one of the few who ever spoke to me kindly, sent a single text. "They're erasing your commits." I looked at Carrick. "You know exactly what you're doing." His expression hardened. "The board warned me after my last project collapsed. If this investor deal fails too, I am finished. I will not let that happen because of you. So, you're rewriting history. I am preserving the company," he said. "Sign the apology. Evelyn, disappear, and let the rest of us move forward." I walked out of the room without touching the pen he had placed in front of me. Every attorney avoided my case except one. By the afternoon, I had left voicemails with 6 different firms. Each response sounded the same: too close to an investor audit, too complicated, too risky. When I finally reached Althea Rowan's office, I expected another dismissal. Instead, her assistant said, "She can see you in 20 minutes. Althea greeted me with a steady handshake. "Tell me everything," she said, guiding me to a chair. I opened my backpack and set down my notebooks, each filled with years of sketches, architecture drafts, and handwritten timestamps. "March flow existed long before Emergent Core," I said. "They're calling it Sloan Sink now." Althea flipped through a few pages. "These dates are handwritten," she noted. "Do you have digital versions? I thought I lost them," I said. "My repository access was revoked." She tapped her keyboard. "If your system ever synced to a home backup, even once, there might be metadata." We waited in silence as she ran a retrieval script. A soft chime sounded, and a log appeared on her screen. Althea leaned forward. "Here," she said. "A commit from 2 years before you joined the company. March Flow Prototype 1. They did not delete this because it was never stored on their servers." A wave of relief hit me so suddenly I had to brace my hands against my knees. Althea continued. "Your employment contract. May I see it?" I handed it over. She scanned it quickly, then tapped a clause near the bottom. "This is your shield," she said. "Pre-existing intellectual property remains solely yours. Emergent Core cannot claim ownership unless you integrated it into their infrastructure knowingly and intentionally. I never did. Then they have a problem," she said, "and we will address it directly." She closed the contract gently. "You mentioned an investor meeting." "They want me there," I said. "They want a public apology." Althea's expression sharpened. "Then that is where we start. If they wanted a war over the truth, they were about to lose one." Althea slid her laptop toward me. "I pulled the activity logs from your home server. Look at this." Dozens of entries blinked across the screen: remote access attempts in the middle of the night, each one originating from Emergent Core's internal network. "They tried to reach your machine hours after they terminated you," she said. "They were searching for your original files." My stomach tightened. "They said I misused their data." "They were inside your system," Althea replied. "Not the other way around." She opened another window. "These are your email backups. Some messages auto-synced before deletion." She clicked on one, and Carrick's name appeared in bold at the top. The subject line read, Attribution Alignment. Inside the message, a single instruction leapt out, remove her name from all documentation. I closed my eyes for a moment, steadying myself. Hearing his voice call me a thief was one thing. Seeing his intent in writing was something colder. Althea spoke quietly. This is tampering. This is deliberate. And it is our leverage. She began assembling the packet time-stamped notebooks, restored commits, contract clauses, metadata from my old machines, server logs, and the email threads Carrick thought he had erased. The stack grew heavier by the minute. My phone buzzed again. A number I did not recognize. The text read, I kept old drafts. They were afraid of losing them. Tell your lawyer. Attached were zipped files, early architectural diagrams stamped with my initials and dated years before my employment. A former engineer. Someone who had seen what was happening and held on to the truth quietly. Just in case. I forwarded everything to Althea. She scanned through the drafts, her brows lifting. This, she said, is the piece they never expected to surface. They cannot rewrite this. She added the files to the stack without another word. They did not invite me, they summoned me. The message arrived in my inbox just after sunset. Mandatory appearance. Investor session. Attendance required for internal dispute resolution. No greeting, no explanation, just an order. They wanted my apology recorded, stamped, and delivered before the investors walked away. I read it twice before forwarding it to Althea. She called me almost immediately. They want you cornered, she said. A public admission gives them the chain of ownership they do not have. I cannot afford another stain on my record, I whispered. I have applications pending. Interviews. If they label me a thief, I will never work again. You will not say a single word they can weaponize, Althea replied. If they speak to you, I will respond. I wished I could tell her that fear was the only thing pressing on me, but it was not. My mother had started another round of treatment that week. I had promised I would handle it. Losing my job already felt like betraying that promise. While I sat at my kitchen table, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. They drafted a press release blaming you for the delays. Do not let them corner you. No name, no context. Just a warning. I stared at it for a long time, feeling the weight of it settle into my spine. Althea arrived at my apartment a short while later with the document stack in her arms. I want you to sleep, she said gently. Even a few hours. I nodded, though I knew sleep would not come easily. Before she left, she paused at the doorway. Tomorrow is not about fear, she said. It is about ownership yours. When the door closed, the apartment felt unbearably quiet. I sat alone with the notice, the warning, and the truth I had fought so hard to protect. They expected fear. For a moment, they almost got it. The investor session began with Carrick standing at the front of the room, clicking through the slides as if he owned every idea on them. This, he said, is Sloan Sync, a fully integrated automation framework designed under my direction. I sat beside Althea, hands clasped tightly in my lap. A few investors exchanged puzzled looks as he spoke, their brows pinched at diagrams he clearly did not understand. One of them murmured, "This architecture repeats itself." Why, Carrick's smile tightened. We streamlined overly complicated sections. That was a lie. He had broken the system by removing pieces he never understood. Another investor raised a hand. Who completed the initial prototype? Carrick hesitated. The team and I collaborated. I shifted slightly in my chair. That was all it took. He snapped toward me. "Do not start. You are here to apologize. Evelyn, nothing else." A pulse of heat rushed up my neck before I could answer. Althea rose slowly. "Everyone," she said, her voice cutting clean through the room. "Please stay calm." Carrick glared at her. "This is an internal meeting." "No," she said. This is a meeting in which you have accused my client of theft. She placed the thick stack of documents on the table with deliberate force. If you believe that accusation holds merit, then please prove it. Silence rippled outward. Carrick looked at the stack as if it might burn him. An investor leaned forward. Do you have timestamps for the original prototype? Althea pulled a folder from the top of the stack and handed it over, complete with metadata and pre-employment records. The investor scanned a page, then frowned deeply. These dates do not align with your claims. Carrick. His face drained. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The room had already begun shifting away from him. Silence can be lethal when everyone is thinking the same thing. The investors closed their folders at almost the exact same moment, as if a signal had passed through the room. One of them, an older man with a clipped tone, said, "We are halting this presentation. We require an independent audit before any further discussion." Carrick's mouth fell open. There is no need for that. Sloan Sync is fully documented. Another investor shook her head. Your documentation conflicts with the timestamps. We are not proceeding blindly. Executives seated along the back wall exchanged anxious whispers. One of them stood abruptly. Carrick, step outside with me. Now! Carrick didn't move. We can resolve this internally. No. The investor replied. We will resolve it properly. The executives stepped out, leaving Carrick stranded at the front of the room. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him. Althea remained standing beside me, hands folded behind her back, calm as a still lake. A man I recognized from the Internal Audit Division approached quietly. He slipped a small drive into Althea's hand. Off the record. He murmured. These were archived in a hidden directory. They were not supposed to be deleted. Althea nodded, her expression unreadable. Thank you. Carrick saw the exchange and stiffened. You cannot share internal archives with unauthorized parties. The auditor met his glare without hesitation. They stopped being internal when you tampered with them. The door swung open again. Emergent Corps' chief executive officer stepped inside, her face set like carved stone. She looked at Carrick first. You told us the prototype was yours, she said quietly. You told us you built it. Carrick's voice cracked. It was a collaborative. She cut him off with a raised hand. You lied to leadership. He took a step back, but there was nowhere left to go. The room no longer belonged to him. By morning, their entire facade was cracking open. I arrived at Althea's office just as she hung up a call. The investor deal is suspended indefinitely, she said. They want full transparency before they reconsider anything. A second call came through almost immediately. Emergent Corps' legal department. Althea put it on speaker. We have initiated an internal investigation, a strained voice announced. It appears there were deletions, altered authorship records, and several unauthorized attempts to access external systems. External systems, Althea repeated. You mean my client's home network? A tense pause followed. We are prepared to discuss a resolution. Before they could elaborate, another voice cut in Carrick's. This was not my doing. The junior engineer Althea leaned forward. You instructed the deletions? Carrick, your emails confirm that. That was taken out of context, he snapped. The team misinterpreted my directives. A third voice, deeper and colder, interrupted. The chief executive officer. We reviewed the full trail. Carrick, you falsified documentation and misled leadership. I was protecting the company, he insisted. You were protecting yourself, she replied. Effective immediately. You are terminated for cause. All unvested stock is revoked. The call ended abruptly. Althea closed her laptop and exhaled. By noon, I received a formal apology from Emergent Corps signed, dated, and explicit. They acknowledged Marchflow as my sole intellectual property and agreed to a settlement that covered the financial damage the accusations had caused. I sat quietly in Althea's office, letting the weight of it settle. My phone buzzed again. Then again, Messages from former co-workers, short, cautious notes. Thank you for standing up. None of us could say anything. You did. I'm glad the truth came out. I stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. For the first time in days, the fear that had gripped my chest began to loosen. I had my work back. Now I needed to decide what to do with it. Carrick did not fall because I fought him. He fell because the truth finally caught up. 2 days after the investigation wrapped, an audio clip began circulating inside Emergent Corps. Someone had recorded the moment he yelled thief at me in the investor meeting, every word, every accusation, every crack in his voice. But the recording did not stop there. Other clips surfaced, older ones. Him berating junior engineers, him forcing a programmer to rewrite a report, him promising credit he never gave. By the end of the week, no one viewed him as a leader trying to protect a company. They saw a man who had been sinking for years. I learned from Althea that several firms in Seattle quietly updated their risk logs. He is not blacklisted out of spite, she explained. He is blacklisted because no one trusts his judgment. That is the difference. I sat with that for a long moment, how loudly the truth echoed once it finally broke free. The settlement emerged in full 3 days later. Enough to stabilize my life, pay my mother's treatment costs, and give me time to rebuild. I had never imagined starting anything on my own, but the idea grew quickly, taking shape the same way Marchflow once had. By the end of the month, March Frame Studio opened inside a rented corner office overlooking a quiet stretch of the waterfront. My first decision was simple. Every engineer who built something here would keep their own intellectual property. No exceptions. No fine print. On my second day in the new space, a young engineer stopped by after hearing about the opening. She held her resume awkwardly, as if unsure whether she belonged. I just wanted to say, she began, twisting the paper in her hands. What you did, it made it safe for people like me to try again. Her voice trembled. I felt something shift inside me, soft and immediate. You belong here. I told her. That is the entire point. Later that evening, I sat alone in my new office and opened the final build of Marchflow. My name was stamped at the top of every document, every commit, every iteration. They erased my name from their servers. I wrote it somewhere they could never reach. When I pressed enter and launched Marchflow publicly for the first time, there was no applause, no spotlight, no audience. Just the quiet certainty that the future I had almost lost was mine again.